And now let's go for the gold standard, right? The gold standard of how you choose the right MP or an MLA is as follows. One, look at how much of transparency does your elected representative push for in the functioning of all the departments that he interfaces with. Does he encourage more and more officials to be responsive to citizens, or he always says, come to me and I will solve it for you? So you should look at transparency and accountability of not just the elected leaders, but also of the bureaucracy. Is your MP or MLA insisting that they become more responsive? So look at these mindsets, look at these orientations. If all of them are in the right place, then you have got the good candidate to vote for. Use these as the golden standard comparisons. What are the important things to keep in mind as Telangana gets into the polling booths in the next few days? So I think the first question that we'll try and address today is some voters will have this dilemma of how to choose the MLA. So I'm going to try and give you some framework to think through this. So one of the things that we tell our students do a 2-year master's in political leadership and government, is for them to even before start saying who's a good leader or a bad leader, or is our democracy functional or dysfunctional, is that we encourage them to first ease into this whole democratic process. Here are our students who spent time in Madhya Pradesh a few weeks ago, and they're going to come to Telangana from Tuesday onwards to try and interact with as many voters as possible to understand what is their expectation out of the electoral process. And when we look at political leadership and political leaders, here is what we believe are important dimensions for every political leader to have in different varying degrees of expertise. Surely they should have a fundamental orientation on the ethics and ethical framework on which they want to represent their constituents and what is the change they want to bring about. And this has to be supplemented by leadership and communication that will ensure that their thought process is communicated to people at large. And what to communicate is driven by a whole lot of philosophical thinking, understanding the voter psychology, what are the legal limitations, the underlying economics that is under play, how do you translate a vision into public policy, the political science behind decision making, and a whole bunch of cold statistics that will help them to shape the future imagination of the country or the state or their own constituency. And for somebody to embark on this long political journey, they need to hone their multidimensional skill continuously, and also they should have the skill to learn how to learn, rather than to say, oh, I only know this much. No politician will ever say, I only know this much. They're always trying to understand more and better and try to represent their constituents better. And I just wanted to bring this thing of saying that where is our orientation, what do we think are all important ingredients to make a good political leader. We all know this Goldman Sachs report, which has been quite quoted upon, which says that India will have the second largest economy by 2075. One is to say, okay, will we get there by 2075? Well, it's a tough challenge, but I do hope that we use all the available synergy that is there in India today and get to that goal. But if there is somebody who can actually accelerate and go there faster, is the political leadership of the country. They can really look at the time between now and 2075 and embark on creating faster growth, better growth, and more inclusive growth, so that we will all live in a better atmosphere by the time 2075 comes around. And I'm sure some of us will still be pretty young and around. Some of us may not be around, but this is a goal that's achievable at last, and we should all work together towards this. So briefly about our school, so that you know where we are coming from, and then we will go ahead into the specific tasks. We are the first school in Asia to look at imparting leadership skills in the areas of political leadership and government. We are empowering youth to become dynamic political leaders to change the face of Indian politics. We help them understand the dynamics between power and governance in India. And also, our framework firmly rests on understanding complex international relations to local administration. The student is exposed to everything from panchayat to parliament in this journey with us over the 2-year period, so that they become strong leaders for the nation and understand nuances at all levels before they get into becoming leaders in their own style. This is a matter of detail, but what I would like to summarize is that they study a range of things. It's important that you understand in our master's program, the first year is predominantly in our campus in Kothurud, but the second year we encourage them to work with as many political leaders, political parties, think tanks and others in practical internships where they gain deep insights of how policies get made, how politicians get elected, and how do they translate from idea to reality. And what are the career destinations? The obvious career destination is that they become political leaders and they contest elections and they go represent their constituents. At the same time, not everybody gets tickets automatically in Indian political system. We can only be a catalyst and fast track that process. Until they get into that process, the following 4 options are open for all our alumni. Some of them get to work closely with government through Niti Aayog, the different ministries, various fellowships that are run by at the national and state level. They become part of the consulting teams in the big 4 consulting firms, various corporates and other places. They become part of civil society and various institutions that are there. And finally, some of them also go into think tanks and multilateral agencies where they work in creating a better holistic view of India, its challenges and its career paths. And now let's get to the elections at Telangana, right? I hope all of you know when the elections are, and I hope all of you are working doubly hard to ensure that you, your friends, all of them turn up to vote on November 30th. Now, the first thing is whom to vote is a question. And if you want to answer that question, currently the Manifestos battle is all going around in 3 different things, right? The first set of conversations are going around the different welfare plans. Some have been talking about not paying back farm loans, better pensions, giving more money to disadvantaged groups, the jobless benefits, insurance plans, and more of jobs in the state government. There are also questions that are being raised about where will the funds come for the farm loan relief, what is the status of the Raitu Bandhu scheme, and with Dalit Bandhu scheme, where will we get the money that's required for all these social shops and facilities that the government intends to give. The third interesting thing that's happening around is a lot of rebel activity that is happening in different parties, people moving from one party to another party, and how it's going to change the electoral dynamics. So there are 119 seats that are going to come into vote on November 30th, and 31 of them are SC/ST seats. And there is a frenzy of activity happening all around you. And I will be there from Tuesday onwards to look at, help our students understand what are the electoral dynamics. And if any of you are interested, we would be happy to kind of meet and understand more from your perspective, the local reality. So we'll get into our first poll. I would request Radhika to run the poll. But the first question is, where do we start? We look at the manifestos, right? I'm sure all of you have got hold of the manifestos that have been released by different parties. Some are yet to release, but at least now you know where they stand on key issues, right? So we would like to know from you, how well do you understand the manifestos and party positions? You know the highlights of all political parties through media and social media. That could be one option. The second is, have you gone through your preferred party's manifesto, right? And you are now able to understand deeply where they stand on issues. The third is, you have also spent time understanding other parties' manifestos as well and see what is their counter on any of the position that your party could have taken. And you can also be in a stage where you've gone through all the political parties and your position has remained unchanged, which is also fairly standard position of many people. And in spite of all of this, you still are not able to make up that mind. Don't feel bad about it. We have always seen many a times the undecided voter are the important voters who make or break elections. If you're still undecided, then listen on. Maybe we'll be able to help you answer some of the questions as we go along. So we have about 9 votes and I think we have 40 participants. Looks like we live in a world of media and social media being our messengers for various political parties. That is the predominant channel where people are able to make up their opinion on whom to vote. Wonderful. I think that's a very interesting poll outcome. So there you see that there is a vast chunk who has been able to see what the poll options are, what the manifestos are talking about. Yes, of course, Srivani ji, good suggestion on telling that I don't know what's in the manifesto. We will include that in the next iteration. But let's look at the other things, right? In spite of all the conversation that's happening on the manifesto, there is a significant amount of people who have still not made up their mind on whom to vote. Don't worry, let's see if the rest of my talk will help you identify the right person to vote for. So now let's get to the second one, right? What are the other issues, right? Like, for example, we have Miss Asha who's sharing that how about elderly pension? Can the pension be improved, right? So what I would request all of you is to kind of share your thoughts on the second poll. What we would like to know here is to see, do you agree with the existing options that the political leaders have provided for you, the parties have provided for you? Do you agree with their priorities, or they don't understand you, they are not reflecting your priorities? This is the next question that we would like to know from you. So here is a chance. So please go ahead and type your thoughts, your political priorities in the chat. And we would love to hear whatever you think should be the priority for Telangana till 2028. So you have the 3 options there. The first option is that, so you can choose one of those options or you can suggest more. A very good suggestion where Ms. Srivani says industry has to improve and there has to be more consultation with the local people in deciding the aspirations of the state. So Trishant, why don't you take the next thing, right? I mean, if you don't agree with the existing priorities, what would you like to be the priority? Think of it as if the political party presidents are part of this chat now. What would you like them to make a priority for in their manifesto? Thank you, Ms. Radha. We would also like to know what would you like the parties to do. Climate change is a big problem that will affect all of us. And unless we check the pollution, we will all suffer from various known and unknown illnesses. And sometimes the pollution effects are long-term. We all are seeing what's happening in Delhi, Punjab and elsewhere. Half of it is man-made. The other half of it is understanding the nature of climate around Delhi and what can be done to mitigate. So very nice, Ms. Radha, to look at a very structured way of solving problems around us and not just get happy with solving the symptoms, but look at the root causes. Very nice, Dr. Asha. It's very important that we should become an inclusive society and not discriminate against each other on issue of gender, caste or religion, or even from where they come from. Very good priority. Very nice, Vishnu, that underlying the importance of collaborative approach between the state and center as well as state and the local governments. Both of them are equally important. And this is a good discussion point as well. On the right, I don't know if some of you have seen this image. This is the image from the Election Commission of India, where they came to Hyderabad to kickstart the poll process. And they have been making efforts to work with civil society groups and others to encourage better voter participation. And I do hope there will be record turnout in Telangana as well, as we saw in the recent Karnataka elections, where the number of votes polled was the highest in the recent past. And now let's kind of look at what is a job, right? I mean, for example, if any of us wanted to get a job, we would first understand what is the job description, and then look at filling up a resume or application portal on which we will say why we are qualified for that job description. So as you all know, the whole entire legislative process in the country is divided into 3 lists: the union list, the state list and the concurrent list. Now, the MLAs are all contesting to become lawmakers and decide the laws for Telangana. The Telangana laws that they discuss and work with will be exclusive as far as the Telangana's priorities are concerned in the state list. In the concurrent list is where they have to work with the the central government or the union government and try and align the Telangana interests and also the national interests, right? So it's important that whenever you meet a contestant in the next few days, is to find out and understand what is his position on the various subjects that are there in the state list. It could be public order, police, health, and sanitation. We all know that we have come out of a very, very huge health COVID crisis. You could kind of understand what does he think went well, what does she think did not go well, and how can the future responses for either pandemic or lifestyle diseases can be different from how we have been working in the past. So use this opportunity to read about the state list, the concurrent list, and see how are they equipping themselves to understand what people's expectations are and how will they represent your interests better. So a good amount of focus should go beyond just manifestos to also understand where does your future leaders stand on all these issues. I would also encourage all of you to visit the Telangana Legislative Assembly website. This is a place where the participation of MLAs and MLCs are provided, and you can go download their participation in the sessions that in the recently concluded assembly. So you can go back and also look at previous assembly sessions as well. Their activities is all listed there. You can look at the questions they have asked, what is the list of business that have been carried upon. So I would encourage each of you to look for this information when you are evaluating your past MLA performance. How does it participate in debate? How many private member bills has your MLA championed in the assembly? What have been the questions that have been asked? How regular is your MLA in attending the sessions, right? All of these are important conversations to have, find out data about this and confront the contestant when he comes back to seek the vote as a repeat vote. Now let's get into the realm of myths. There are many, many myths that go around at the time of election. As a political student, I think it's important that we all have a conversation around the myth. The first myth is when people come in and say, your vote to a particular candidate will go waste as that particular candidate is unlikely to win, right? This is a myth that they say your vote is worth it only if you put it for the winning candidate, and it's a loss if you don't put it for the winning candidate. And this is a place that I would like to kind of bust the myth and say that every vote for every contestant is very important. It will help the constituency reflect and say, for my constituency, there are so many people who believe in a particular cause or a particular interest. So irrespective of whether your candidate wins or loses, showing up and you putting your vote on a person whom you believe will represent your interest is very important. So that's the conversation that you should have with people who come to your doorstep or people whom you go and listen to the rallies, is to ascertain and say how well does that person represent your interest. It's like a GPA for the next 5 years for all affairs of the government. If you're giving that GPA, you should definitely be able to ascertain and see, does this person have the similar interest as what my interest is there for Telangana for the next 5 years, right? So this is myth number one. If somebody comes and says you are putting vote to person X, but that person X is unlikely to win, you should say that it doesn't matter. Winning or voting is not just dependent on my vote, but all of us coming together. And if each one of us does the good job of voting for the person who's good for your constituency, then democracy will improve. So the second thing that's spoken about is a whole lot of thing about saying that even though X will win here, his party will not form the government, and hence you should vote for Y. And this is again a very, very flawed argument. Even if you vote for the winning party and if he gets elected, not all MLAs become ministers. Only 15% of them end up becoming ministers. So more than saying that whether the contestant whom you are voting for will be minister or not, you should look at his ability to work with whoever is in the government and get things done that are important for your constituency. So please keep that in mind and not get caught up with the saying that, oh, everybody thinks some party will win. What we have seen over the years is that sometimes opinion polls get it right, sometimes opinion polls get it wrong. So why should you kind of waste your mandate by going by some opinion poll that came, which may or may not be the right outcome. So focus on your interest and how well the candidate is likely to represent your interest. Let's go to third myth. Myth number 3. The third is often this saying where they say, well, I'm voting for the CM or the PM, but the candidate I'm not much interested in. Well, it doesn't work that way. You know, in our form of democracy, we elect the MLAs and MPs. They in turn go back and elect the CM and the PM. And hence, they are representing you. They are going to represent your choice from your constituency. And hence, it's very important when somebody says, my vote is for X to be CM when the CM is not contesting in your constituency. So that's a myth that you should not fall into. You should make sure that you get a good leader for your constituency. And once you get a good leader for your constituency, obviously you'll have a better shot of getting a better chief minister. Right? So we spoke about what are your top 3 priorities for Telangana. You have been sharing. If you have some more thoughts, please kind of keep sharing with us. What we would also like you to do is find an opportunity to go meet one or more of the contestants in your area and sensitize him on what you think are important priorities. Some of the priorities you shared are very important. You should all make an effort to engage with the contestant in your area and meet him and tell him that this is what I would like you to focus on. And that's a good conversation for all of you to prioritize in the coming few days. And now let's go for the gold standard, right? The gold standard of how you choose the right MP or an MLA is as follows. 1, look at how much of transparency does your elected representative push for in the functioning of all the departments that he interfaces with. Does he encourage more and more officials to be responsive to citizens, or he always says, come to me and I will solve it for you? So you should look at transparency and accountability of not just the elected leaders, but also of the bureaucracy. Is your MP or MLA insisting that they become more responsive? The third is also to look at, is your MLA or MP encouraging all of you to air your views on issues that are important for your constituency? And when these public consultations happen, does he make an effort to make sure as many of the suggestions that are received are evaluated by the implementing agencies and the best decisions are taken in the hindsight and the wisdom that the citizens give to them? And finally, is your MP and MLA standing for devolution of power? Or every time he looks at saying that how can I become the centrality of everything that happens in my constituency? So look at these mindsets, look at these orientations. If all of them are in the right place, then you have got the good candidate to vote for. Use these as the golden standard comparisons. And there's another exercise we can do if we have time after this, is to kind of understand what is likely to happen in 2024, the national elections. When the union elections happen, what could be the important narratives that different stakeholders will put in the front of the electorate? Which of them will survive all the scrutiny and attention that all the stakeholders have and provide for the different discourses that keep happening? And which do you think are likely to become the top 3 narratives from now and May 2024? You can look at some experiment of doing this. And you can also state why you think that a particular thing will become center stage now. And I think this is a good exercise for all of you to do. Here are the details where you can reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to us.